Private aid groups and volunteers have been assisting thousands of migrants and asylum seekers on both sides of the U.S. Mexico border. The American Red Cross says that it is specifically working with the city of El Paso, Texas, and non-governmental organizations there. Together, they have been trying to provide emergency shelter to those who have been sleeping out in the cold. The Hope Border Institute is another faith-based community organization that addresses issues concerning migration. Dylan Corbett is the group's executive director, and as you can see, he is joining us now. Dylan, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
How are you guys holding up? I want to ask that question first because obviously this is a 24-hour effort trying to help people in that community.
That's right. No doubt there's a challenge here in El Paso, Texas. There are people who are coming to the border, and there are people who are on both sides of the border in our sister city of Ciudad Juarez. And we're doing our best to make sure that people are given a place to sleep, are given the food that they need, and are given adequate health care. And that's true on both sides of the border. But it's a challenge. But, you know, to give you a little bit of perspective, this is something that El Paso has been doing for years and really decades. This is a community which is right on the border. We have our sister city of El Paso, of Ciudad Juarez, right on the other side of the border. People cross the border every day. Our families live on both sides of the border. We speak both English and Spanish, and we've been taking care of migrants for a long time. About a quarter of our population is foreign-born. It's a very safe community. The challenges right now are real, and we hope to be able to rise to the challenge to meet the moment with the assistance of the federal government. But Title 42, we've just learned, is now still in place.
Yeah, and so you brought it up. I wanted to get your reaction to what the Supreme Court has just decided. Obviously, you've been watching CBS News, and you know that this is a Title 42 that will stay in place, at least for now. So what is your reaction to that?
Yeah, I think the arrivals that we're seeing, particularly here in El Paso, are certainly difficult. But, you know, we've been working for years to get rid of Title 42 because Title 42 is a policy that's ultimately unsustainable. It's contributed in large part to the bottleneck that we're seeing here at the border. Many of the people who are crossing the border now have been waiting for months, and some of them over a year because of Title 42. So it's created a bottleneck at the border. It's a policy that's really difficult on border enforcement. It's really unsustainable for border enforcement because they're engaged in repeated expulsions of people across the border. It creates an enormous workload for individual agents in Border Patrol. And ultimately on people who genuinely need asylum. A lot of these people are fleeing desperate circumstances. We're seeing people coming here from Nicaragua. People are aware of the conflict there. We're seeing people who are fleeing really abject poverty and difficult political situations in countries like Venezuela. And it's a real challenge. And Title 42 weighs most heavily on those folks. It's a policy that really needs to be kicked to the dustbin. We've seen it now for a couple years under this administration, but it's a relic of the Trump administration, and it was put in place to stop people who needed protection at the border. And so it's something that really has to go.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree right now? I mean, I'm sitting in Washington, D.C. here, but based on what people are seeing on their television screens this holiday season, you have these migrants, you know, piling up in this cold at the border. So if not for Title 42, what do you do to solve this problem?
Yeah, well, Title 42 is causing that situation.
You did say that. You did say that. So it's causing this bottleneck. I heard that, and I appreciate your input on this. But then what is the solution?
You know, sometimes it's hard for us to remember. The goalposts were moved so far in the direction of sealing the border to people who really need protection, vulnerable children, vulnerable families under the previous administration. Title 42 was part of that. Title 42 was part of a strategy to really stop protection, to betray our values as the United States and not be that country that stands up and offers protection to asylum seekers at our border. The reality is we need to restore asylum. We need a system that pivots away from policies that stop people at the border, and we need to invest in a welcoming, humane humanitarian system of reception. We're capable of doing it. A community like El Paso, despite the challenges, we're coming together, our local government, our local enforcement agents, our NGOs, our churches, and our faith communities. We're doing our best. We can do more with the partnership of the federal government. We've got to pivot away from these policies. We've ultimately got to address the root causes and address the reasons that people are coming to this country in the first place. And we've got to guarantee that people who need protection are able to access it at the border. It's something we can do, but Title 42 means that it's not happening right now.
All right, Dylan Corbett, best to you in this holiday season and your organization. Appreciate your time.
Thanks. Happy holidays.